Chapter 6. The Island. Feeling that Peter was about to return to the Neverland, the island woke up. Without Peter, the island was quiet. But with Peter's return, the island would burst with activity. On this evening, the lost boys were out looking for Peter. The pirates were out looking for the lost boys. The Indians, well, they were out looking for the pirates, and the beasts were looking for the Indians. Each group was going round and round the island. Since they were all going in the same direction, they didn't meet. All were up to no good except the boys, who just wanted to greet their captain. Tonight, there were 6 boys. Sometimes there were more, sometimes less. Some moved on when they seemed to be growing up. They knew that growing up was against Peter's rules. Toodles wasn't the bravest of the lost boys, and he had terrible luck. He usually missed the adventures and excitement because he'd be off doing something alone. Tink was looking for mischief this evening, and thought Toodles would be the most easily tricked lost boy. The other lost boys, Nibs, Slightly, Curly, and the twins were not as easily fooled. No sooner did the lost boys pass when the pirates came by. In the midst of them, carried by chariot, was James Hook. His hair was long with black curls. His eyes looked like a pleasant blue until he plunged at you. Then they'd get red spots that lit up horribly. Hook was a sinister man, but never more sinister than when he was polite. He had more courage than most men. The only thing he feared was the sight of his own blood. But the grimmest part of him was his iron claw. On the trail of the pirates were the Indians. They carried knives and were in search of the pirates. Great Little Big Panther led the way. Bringing up the rear was Tiger Lily. She was most beautiful and stood tall. The Indians disappeared as they'd come, like shadows. Soon, their place was taken by the beasts, lions, tigers, and bears. Their tongues hung out because they were hungry. After the beasts passed, the very last to come through was a gigantic crocodile. Who do you think he was searching for? Once the croc passed, the parade started again. The first to fall out of the moving circle were the boys. Sitting down on a rock, Slightly said, "I do wish Peter would come back. Not that I'm afraid of pirates, but I want to know if he heard anything more about Cinderella." Suddenly, they heard a sound in the distance. As it grew louder, they heard a song. "Avast belay, when I appear, by fear they're overtook. Naught's left upon your bones, when you have shaken claws with Hook." At once the lost boys scattered, quicker than rabbits. With the exception of Nibs, all were already in their underground homes. Look closer, and you'll see 7 large trees, each having a hollow trunk. These are the 7 entrances to the home under the ground. As the pirates advanced, Starkey caught sight of Nibs disappearing through the woods. As he lifted his pistol to let out a warning, an iron claw gripped his shoulder. Hook's dark voice boomed, "Put that away. The sound would have Tiger Lily's Indians upon us. Besides, it's Peter Pan I must have. He was the one who cut off my arm." He whipped his hook through the air. "I've waited a long time to shake his hand with my hook. I'll tear right through him." "Aye," said Starkey. "If I were a mother, I would pray to have my children born with a hook as fine as yours." Hook smiled. "Peter flung my arm to a crocodile that was passing by." "That explains your fear of crocodiles," said Smee. "Not all crocodiles," Hook corrected him. "Just that one. It liked my arm so much that it's followed me ever since. From sea to sea, land to land, licking its lips for the rest of me." "In a way," said Smee, "it's a compliment." Hook barked. "I want no such compliment. I want Peter Pan." With that, Hook plopped down on a large mushroom. "Smee, that croc would have had me before this, but by luck it swallowed a clock that goes tick, tick, tick inside it. So before it reaches me, I hear the ticking and bolt." "Some day," said Smee, "the clock will run down, and then he'll get you." Hook licked his dry lips. "That's the fear that haunts me." Hook shifted on the mushroom. "Why does this mushroom seem so hot?" When he stood, he saw that it wasn't a mushroom at all, rather a chimney in disguise. Not only did smoke start to rise, but voices of the lost boys rose up as well. Hook immediately noticed the 7 trees and came up with a plan. He rushed back to the ship to make a poison pie for the boys. He'd leave it where the boys would surely find and eat it. After all, they didn't have a mother who would tell them not to eat the sweets. Hook and the pirates danced and started to sing a little song. They never finished the song. They heard the tiniest of sounds and fled. Hook shuddered and screamed, "The crocodile!" When Nibs returned to the lost boys later that evening, he called the others out. "Look what I see! A beautiful white bird." "What kind of bird?" asked one of the twins. "I don't know, but as it flies, it moans. Poor Wendy." "Poor Wendy?" questioned the other twin. "I remember," said Slightly. "They're birds called Wendies. Here it comes." Wendy was now overhead. They could barely hear her cry over Tink's shrill voice. Tink was no longer pretending to be Wendy's friend. In a jealous rage, she pinched Wendy each time she touched her. "Hello, Tink," called the lost boys. Tink's reply rang out, "Peter wants you to shoot the Wendy." The boys always obeyed Peter Pan's orders. They grabbed their bows and arrows. "Quick, Toodles," said Tink. "Peter will be so pleased." Toodles always wanted to please Peter. He lifted his arrow to his bow. "Out of the way, Tink," he shouted, and fired. A second later, Wendy fluttered to the ground with an arrow stuck in her chest.